Sitting on the corner of County Road 39 and County Road 41 is a small family cemetery known as Ellison Family Cemetery. This cemetery is probably best remembered as the cemetery in Dr. Jenkins' yard, or the cemetery at Ellison's Crossroads. You cannot go from Altoona to Sneed or Walnut Grove to Oneonta through Murphy's Valley without passing by the cemetery. Although the Ellison Family Cemetery is just a small family cemetery with only 10 burials, it symbolizes the union between two prominent families, with the interment of Jennings Nix and Temperance Ellison Nix. These two surnames are instantly recognizable to anyone with an interest in Altoona area history, as well as the many descendants who live in Blount and Etowah County to this day. Although the primary objective of this video is to highlight the cemetery that many pass by without a second thought, it is also to explore the earliest ancestors of the Nix and Ellison families with some information on Jennings and Temperance Ellison Nix, explore the history of the property, provide some insight into the cemetery itself, and shed some light on which members of the Ellison and Nix family are actually buried here. Originally, Temperance was married to John Reeder Ellison. Although their exact marriage date is unknown, both and Ellison were originally from South Carolina. Together, the couple had a total of 9 children, 6 boys and 3 girls. Sons Barry Henry Ellison and William L. Ellison were prominent during the early years of Altoona. Daughter Marietta Ellison married William Dyer Moody, who is a well-known Blount County figure. Other descendants played prominent roles in the history of the area, such as Dr. John H. Ellison and William J. Ellison. Even today, there are many Ellisons in the area who can trace their lineage back to this couple and their South Carolina origins. In October 1854, John Ellison came to Alabama and purchased a large tract of property from Anderson Wade. This was followed by a smaller piece of property nearby, which was sold to Ellison by James Thompson in December 1854. In 1858, the tract containing the cemetery and property on the northwest corner of the crossroads was obtained by government patent. In 1940, C.L. Ingram wrote about John Ellison's fate for an article in the Southern Democrat. Not long after coming to Blount County, Ellison returned to South Carolina to settle his affairs. In his absence, Temperance and his family waited for his return. After an extended absence, a letter arrives at the Ellison home. It contained a lock of John's hair and the news that he had passed from typhoid fever while in Greenville. Like Ellison, Jennings Nix was from South Carolina. Prior to his arrival in Alabama, he married Lucinda Alexander and had a total of 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. Some Nix genealogists state that Lucinda passed away in South Carolina, after which Jennings and his sons relocated to Alabama. Others list her as making the trek and passing away shortly after the family's arrival in the state. Like the Ellisons, the Nixes also played an important role in the development of the area. Jennings' son Daniel was the namesake for Nix, a small rural hub in Moody's Chapel that predated Altoona. If you are from the Altoona and Walnut Grove area and are related to the Nixes, chances are that your lineage can be traced directly to Jennings Nix. In June 1854, Nix obtained 2 parcels from the government in the Warrior Valley, Moody's Chapel area. However, it's likely that he resided on the property prior to actually obtaining the title. On November 17, 1856, Jennings Nix married Temperance Ellison in Blount County. Their union brought together a connection between the two prominent families and resulted in the birth of 3 additional sons. Turning our attention to the Ellison Family Cemetery, the first recorded burial is that of Louella Ellison, who passed away on October 25, 1875. Louella, the daughter of Francis T. and Winnie Bagwell Ellison, was born on September 10, 1870, making her 5 years old at the time of her death. Interestingly, her parents are not buried in the Ellison Family Cemetery, but the nearby Harmony Church Cemetery. In fact, not only is Louella the earliest burial, she is also the only member of the Francis Ellison family interred in the Ellison Family Cemetery. Louella is not alone in being the only member of her specific family buried in the cemetery. Her cousin, Thomas J. Ellison, the son of Thomas Jefferson, and Martha Jane McEwen Ellison, was born on April 26, 1881, and passed away on July 17, 1883. The third recorded burial in the cemetery He remains the only member of the Thomas Jefferson Ellison family interred with his parents, like that of Louella's buried in nearby Harmony Church Cemetery. The distinction of being the only specific family member buried in the Ellison Family Cemetery also extends to Edna Pearl Nix, who is also the only descendant of both Jennings and Temperance Nix buried in the cemetery. Edna, the daughter of John K. and Lucy Thompson Nix, was born on January 28, 1884, and passed away on February 28, 1885. She was the fifth burial in the cemetery. Today, her headstone is displaced, lying against the exterior border of the cemetery. Christina Lee Herring, the wife of J. M. Herring, is the ninth burial in the cemetery. Christina, the daughter of William L. and Ara Ellison, was born on March 30, 1871. At the time of her death on September 26, 1903, she was married to Jesse Monroe Herring. He later remarried Josie Walker and is buried next to her in Conn Cemetery in Gallant. Christine Lee Herring's grave is marked with an obelisk. Interestingly, a 1980 survey of Ellison Cemetery that appears in the Settlers of Northeast Alabama mistakenly lists J. M. Herring instead of Christina Lee Herring. Of the remaining 6 burials, 4 belong to the William L. Ellison family. Sometime after the death of Jennings Nix, Ellison took over ownership of the majority of the original Ellison property. Over the course of the next 30 years, he continued to purchase adjacent tracts of property and expand his holdings. Interestingly, it appears that the property at the crossroads, including the family cemetery, was owned by William's son, Charley B. Ellison. The first of the William L. Ellison burials in the cemetery was his son Tully Ellison. Tully was born on September 23, 1875, and passed away at 4 years old on October 30, 1879. His headstone reads, "Little Tully, son of W.L. and A. Ellison." Tully was the second burial in the Ellison Family Cemetery. Less than 2 years later, the Ellisons lost another son, Charley, who was born on May 23, 1884, and passed away on June 28, 1885. Charley was the 6th burial in the cemetery. On August 16, 1903, Anode, Ara Ellison, the wife of William L. Ellison, passed away at age 63. Her death was reported in the September 10, 1903 edition of the Southern Democrat. Quote, "We are sorry to learn of the death of Mrs. W. L. Ellison, which occurred at her home near Baum several days ago. Ara was the 8th burial in the cemetery. Her grave is marked with an obelisk. The final burial in the Ellison Family Cemetery was William L. Ellison himself, who died on April 17, 1919. The son of the original landowner, he was patriarch to most of the burials within the plot. His grave, like those of his wife and daughter, is marked with an obelisk. It contains a Masonic emblem near the top, and the epitaph, "Death was the gate through which to life he passed." He was eulogized in the April 24, 1919 edition of the Southern Democrat, which wrote, "Blount County lost one of her most useful citizens last Thursday, when the death angel called William L. Ellison to his reward." Mr. Ellison was 81 years of age and had been in declining health for some time. The news of his death brings sorrow to many homes. He was well known throughout Blount and Altoona, and was admired and respected by all who knew him. The final 2 burials are Jennings Nix and his wife, Temperance Nix. Jennings died on February 24, 1885, and became the 4th burial in the cemetery. Temperance remained on the property until her passing on June 10, 1902. 5 days prior, the Southern Democrat reported that she was seriously ill and not expected to live. She became the 7th burial in the cemetery. Jennings and Temperance share an obelisk marker, with his information on one side, hers on the other, and the main face bearing the epitaph, "In memory of our beloved parents." After the death of William Ellison in 1919, the majority of his estate was split by probate sale. What remained was a smaller tract that included the main house and family cemetery, along with central property holdings. These were passed down to his son, Charley B. Ellison. Upon his death in 1930, the property went to his daughter Ruth Ellison, the great-granddaughter of John Reeder Ellison, and the fourth generation to own the land. After Ruth's untimely death by suicide in 1936, the property was sold at auction, leaving Ellison family possession for the first time. By the early 1960s, the core property, including the home site and cemetery, was purchased by Dr. H.D. Jenkins, who acquired much of the original Ellison and Nix land, unifying it for the first time since Jennings Nix's day. After Dr. Jenkins' death, the property was again divided, with the home site, cemetery, and land northwest of Ellison's Crossroads purchased by Dennis Burton. As of 2025, the cemetery and home site remain in the possession of the Burton family. As we leave the Ellison Family Cemetery, we are reminded that even in a quiet corner of Blount County, history lives on. These 10 graves hold the stories of families whose lives shaped Altoona, Sneed, Walnut Grove, and beyond. The Ellisons and Nixes were more than names carved in stone. They were pioneers, neighbors, and leaders who helped build the communities we know today. Though the cemetery is small, it stands as a lasting connection between past and present, and a reminder that every life leaves its mark. As generations continue to pass by this crossroads, may we pause, if only for a moment, to remember the people who rest here, and the legacy they have left.